Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of School to Startup. I'm your host Ankita Bhosle and I'm from University Partnership Team at Tracxn. Before we get started, let me set up the backdrop for today's episode. For over a decade, Tracxn has powered a global startup ecosystem as a leading private market intelligence platform, partnering with universities that inspire innovation and entrepreneurship. One of our flagship initiative is this program, which is School to Startup, where we introduce academic leaders who are catalyzing innovation and shaping tomorrow's entrepreneurs. Today, we are delighted to welcome Dr. Joanna Berry, Professor of Entrepreneurship at Durham University. And Joanna, we are very excited to have you today on today's episode. So to get started, I have first question for you. We would love to know a little bit about your professional journey, what led you to academia, and how has been your experience so far?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be part of an organization that supports entrepreneurship and innovation like this. I think it's really important. So I really appreciate the invitation. My personal journey, I always say career is a verb as well as a noun. It's not necessarily been straightforward, but that's very much the same for many entrepreneurs, I think. I started with a law degree at Oxford quite some time ago now, but my curiosity led me through roles in law, working in South Africa in 1985, 86, 87, which was fascinating. And then back into the UK, working in technology and in media, looking at, a range of things from practicing law in South Africa and trying to right the wrongs of apartheid through to studying how broadband would transform TV, and later on how technology disrupted the music industry as part of my PhD. So coming into academia allows me to explore these intersections and to constantly upgrade my knowledge about these sort of challenges and opportunities that the intersections provide us with.
So what are the most exciting projects or research initiatives that you're currently working on, and what impact do you hope to see these initiatives will create?
There are so many, and thank you for giving me a bit of time to think about this, because I had to try and whittle them down a bit. We sit where I am at the moment in the heart of Durham's innovation zone, and Durham University Business School has a lovely new building. We have our 60th anniversary coming up this year, and we're working very closely with regional, national and international partners to reinforce that sense of Durham University as a place where you can come and learn about world-class business transformation. We're doing lots of work at intersections. I really enjoy working across disciplines. So I do lots of work, for example, with engineering, and lots of work with regional organizations around digital transformation. We have I have an event tomorrow, in fact, where I'm speaking at a Women in Manufacturing and Engineering launch event. But we also have, based in the business school, one of the university's research centres called SPARC, S-P-A-R-C, which is the Space Research Centre, which is hugely exciting because space really is the next frontier. And it may not seem necessarily intuitive for it to be based in a business school, but one of the really important parts of the very holistic way in which we're approaching space is that notion of supply chain. How do you get things up there? How do you get things down there? We're working with law to look at space arbitration. So how do you determine who owns what when there are no walls, no boundaries, no seas? And that means that we get to bring in not only our world-class academics, people like Professor James Osborne, who heads up SPARC, but also our professors in practice, who are individuals from the world of practice who bring their experience into the business school and really help us to create a relevant set of mechanics and momentum going forward. The one that really springs to mind here is Alderman Professor Emma Edam, with whom I've already done a bit of a podcast. She's a phenomenal global citizen who's really integrated, and also our new honorary fellow, Naomi Pride, who is the co-chair of Space Innovation and Exploration at DLA Piper, which is a global law firm. But we also work with really interesting people like Andy Aldrin, whose dad was Buzz Aldrin, one of the very first astronauts, who's a professor in space entrepreneurship in the States. So we cross a lot of boundaries and do lots of interesting work, not just in your standard straightforward business disciplines, but showing how business really, all the disciplines of business provide the engine room for innovation and growth.
I think this is not just breaking boundaries. I think this is going beyond the boundaries for sure, Joanna. And this is so interesting to know that there's entrepreneurship focus on space, that too in a business school. We usually see this focus in a technical institute, but this is very interesting to know that a business school is also going towards that. My next question is, I'm sure you already highlighted some of the things in the previous answer, but what are the trends that you're seeing in the startup ecosystem? And what do you think students should pay attention to? And we would also like you to highlight, while you're answering this question, that how is academia is adapting to nurture an entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, they're all really important questions. I think the startup ecosystem, which is very different now, I think, to particularly pre-internet times, although technology is not the answer to everything. The startup ecosystem, I think, there's a lot more value placed on agility, interdisciplinarity, as I've said, and multidisciplinarity, being capable of doing more than one thing, as well as leaning on other disciplines to inform your startup, and sustainability. And that's the triple bottom line version of sustainability. So for people, profit and planet, right? It's not just about money. So we are seeing digital transformation and climate technology really drive some fascinating new business models. And there's a couple of startups that I think we'll talk about where I can tell you a bit more about that. But the other thing that academia does is respond to these changes by trying to embed a more entrepreneurial education and sustainability into the curriculum right across the board. Is one of the reasons why I love working, for example, with our engineers. You know, they're engineers, they make stuff, they make things, but an entrepreneurial engineer is a really powerful creature. So embedding entrepreneurship and sustainability into curriculum right across the board, across the university, is really important. And that helps, I think, to prepare our students to create value beyond profit. So looking at working toward having a purpose as well as creating profit, and really emphasizing social impact, social value, and environmental impact. And as to the second bit of your question, I think there's a real noticeable shift toward problem-based learning and fostering those entrepreneurial mindsets that you discussed or that you touched on just then, that growth mindset as opposed to the fixed mindset, which are absolutely vital for us as academics as well as our students to navigate the uncertainty and the innovation possibilities in the landscape in business today, which is evolving so rapidly. It is, I think, that the acronym, there's a lot of acronyms in business, but this one, VUCA, is absolutely true. It's a volatile, uncertain, and a very ambiguous, complex environment. And having an entrepreneurial mindset that allows you to shift and to pivot and to grow in response to what's happening around you is really important. And we do our very best to try and embed that in our students when we teach.
That's really interesting to know how, a student comes in with their own ideas and you try to nudge them towards having a greater social impact and towards sustainability. That's very interesting to know. And that can only happen in universities and, it can happen in institutes like yours. Something which we would love to know, is there any recent student-led projects or startups that have turned into success stories? I'm sure there are many. And how do today's entrepreneurship courses contribute to those outcomes? I think that you did touch some point here, but we would love to know more details here.
Yeah, sure. This is really important to us. We can teach as much theory as we like, but if it doesn't translate into practice, it's sort of pointless. So we've seen lots of inspiring student-led projects that evolve into successful enterprises. There's a lot of social enterprises coming out of student thinking at the moment as well, which brings me back to that point I made about social value, social impact. And it's often those integrating technological innovation for social or for indeed environmental benefit, this triple bottom line approach that we embed. So we give students lots of hands-on experience, we give them mentorship, we expose them to real startups, and they hear the stories of success and failure, because you learn just as much from failure as you do from success, believe me. Creating that bridge between theory and practice. So let me give you maybe a couple of examples, if I may.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So one of my MSc students from, oh goodness, I think it must be 6 years ago now, Offense Lekwane, she's now running an amazing organization called Wakari, which is an organization that helps to attract talent and build inclusive cultures. It uses a technology base to help organizations review and measure their disability and inclusion and workplace accessibility practices to make sure that they are recruiting the widest possible range of people, which I think is really exciting. Another one that came up, in fact, was part of a project that students did with me when we were in San Francisco with the online MBA student group a few years ago. The assessment was to present a new business idea. And this new business idea has now become a reality, and it's called DoneUp. It's run by a young man called Micah Leach, who is fantastic. And what DoneUp is a dashboard for impact of charitable giving, and it helps to connect people with overlooked charities, those small little corner shop charities, to people that might want to invest in them to help to create and celebrate real positive change by giving you a dashboard where you can say, well, I've got £100 to give. Let me have a look at what the smaller organizations are that might benefit from that. And then I guess a most recent one, which was international and really impactful, was an organization called Nostos, or is an organization called Nostos Homes. So the founder of a very entrepreneurial man called Paul Linley, he founded a company called Ella's Kitchen. He supported a competition, and this was won by a student group called Nostos Homes. So I have been helping them together with colleagues to build and scale and grow their organization, which delivers emergency and longer term housing for people who are forcibly displaced by conflict or by disaster, particularly in Asia and India. So operating in the humanitarian sphere and looking at trying to address forced displacement that's worldwide. So housing in crisis, shelter provision for refugees and disaster affected communities. Those are just a few examples. I could go on forever. But those are just a few examples of the sorts of organizations that our students, who really do have huge heart and huge energy, are creating on the back of the education that we give them here in Durham.
These all are really interesting startups to know about, from cultural inclusivity to even inclusivity with respect to disability. So I think it's a lot of focus towards bringing that social impact, and I can see that through your success stories as well. And my next question is, I'm sure there are lots of advice that you would be giving on daily basis, but any advice you would love to offer to students or any budding entrepreneurs who are just starting off as an entrepreneur here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in terms of what we do here and the advice that I can give on the back of that, not just me, I think academia as a whole is moving from being a knowledge provider to acting as a collaborator and a builder of ecosystems. So we're incubating ideas, we help facilitate partnerships, we try to create an environment where sustainability, that triple bottom line version, and digital innovation all intertwine, especially through these cross-disciplinary programs and the external engagement that we get involved with. So when I talk to students, I talk to them about the fact that this pace of change means that skills like adaptability and critical thinking and collaboration are more valuable than they've ever been. And so I advise them to build their networks really early. Don't be afraid to fail, and to look for really diverse mentorship. That I've always said to my students that they should have maybe a notional advisory board of people. I have an advisory board. I haven't even told everybody who's on it that they're on it, but I know exactly who I would reach out to for a quick look over a business plan, who would look at the finances, who would talk to me about strategy, who would talk to me about is it even a good idea? And that's outside of your family, and university and the people you meet there are great. So, and more importantly, keep learning and stay curious, because innovation thrives on new perspectives, and understanding how digital tools can drive sustainability in all its senses and business growth is really critical. So as well as staying curious, thinking holistically, because a new venture isn't just about profit, it's about purpose and social impact and resilience.
That's a great advice, and I'm sure I think networking is definitely an advice for everyone, and seeking advice from the people you think are expert in a domain is something that even I'm going to take a note of. And my one more question that I had related to academia was, what do you think? How do you see the role of academia evolving in startup and innovation space over the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think we're moving from just providing theory and saying, off you go, do something with it, to acting as a place where theory is put into practice. So we have incubator space, we have the Venture Lab, the Hazan Venture Lab. We work very closely with regional providers to make sure that Durham University sits at the heart of an innovation hub where we can reach out to industry partners and to third sector, private sector and public sector organizations to link students through the practical courses that they do, through the strategic business projects that we give them, and through very practical case-based classroom activities like the boardroom exercise, where they get the opportunity to test drive what it's like to really be a director in a boardroom. So we're not just giving students theory and saying, go make something of it. We're providing opportunities for them in a friendly environment to really stretch themselves, incubate their ideas and just try them out and see if they work. There's nothing wrong with failure, but we'd much rather students learn that here than go out into the world and go through all of that. So we're trying to foster this environment where we have a really sustainable approach to entrepreneurship and innovation, and we do that through real cross-disciplinarity within the university and through the ecosystem that we build for students outside of that. And that's quite different to the way that academia has historically been.
Oh, and universities do become a space where the students usually feel the safest and they're ready to take those risks and of course stretch themselves to another level. My last question, we would love to know more, but my last question would be, if our audience want to learn more about your work, your research projects, or any upcoming projects, where should we reach out to you, or is there any websites you would like to mention?
Yes, my work is freely available online. I do lots of work on LinkedIn. I do like using LinkedIn. I think it's a really valuable environment for linking out with people and sharing good practice. My published research looks at topics all the way from new business models in the creative industries to the impact of digital innovation on sustainability. And as I say, my PhD was all about the impact of technology on the music industry. But we have ongoing projects at Durham Energy Institute, where I'm one of the co-directors. And I'm just about to start supervising a student, for example, who will be publishing, because I will make sure she does, very soon, on the impact of renewable infrastructure on local communities. So it's the sort of social impact of big renewable energy infrastructures, which is an increasingly important part of that whole move toward renewable energy. So I'm really excited about that, because to teach is to learn twice. And I will learn just as much from supervising this project. Well, maybe not just as much. I'm hoping she learns a bit more than me, because she's the one that's supposed to be the expert. But I really enjoy that learning process when I'm supervising students doing such exciting work and such important work for regional, national and international communities.
All the best for your project, and that brings us to the end of this episode. We sincerely thank you, Joanna, for sharing your time and wisdom with us, and we thank all the lovely viewers, and hope this episode has given them a new hope and inspiration to become a successful entrepreneur. Stay tuned for more such episodes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, Ankita. Bye-bye.